Let's just take a moment to sit together. So adjust your posture. And just allow yourself to experience your body. That your mind inhabits for the time it will. And we'll just sit for a minute. This is really the best part, you know, the view. To me, so much of what we're practicing here together this weekend is perhaps the whole thing is taking in the view. Really taking in, from the Buddhist perspective, a view of seeing what's here, and not hesitating in any way to be fully here, and also to see, from the perspective of view, how we create disconnection and how we break relationship. So today what I'd like to talk about is this kind of hesitation and this moment of hesitation. So there's a wonderful teacher named Rinzai, and this is a story about him. He said, "Attention," as he addressed his assembly. He said, "There's a true person of no rank, constantly flowing out of the portals of your face. You beginners, you caregivers, who have witnessed him and who have not, look, look." Thereupon, a student said, "Well, what about me?" And Rinzai grabs him, as it was back in the day, in these stories. We don't do that anymore. He grabbed him and then said, "Speak, speak." And the student hesitated, got nervous, maybe even anxious, maybe self-conscious. And Rinzai pushes him away. So to me, it's about how do we really allow the senses to be fully alive? How do you allow what you see, what you feel, what you hear? How do we do that with ourselves to allow this true person to constantly just flow out of you, so that when you're in a relationship and communicating even, I think the subtitle to this symposium is about communication in the interpersonal relationship. I like to think of it as called intimacy. Just allowing yourself to be here with yourself and, in this case, Barbara. In this case, Todd or Roseanne. But for some reason, we think that we don't have time. Busy, busy. Anyone say that recently? I'm just so busy. I hear this all the time. I'm so busy, I can't do that. I'm too busy, busy. There's a recent article called The Disease of Busyness. To me, it's speaking, when I'm feeling busy, it's saying that I'm not really doing what I want to be doing. Or it's just another way for my distractions from doing what I like to be doing. Or it's my distractions from actually existing. And we can get so lost in our titles and roles. Chodo and I were out in Arizona last week, training a group of integrative medicine fellows. And people were like, contemplation? We don't have time for that. Do you know how long our visits are? 2 to 3 minutes. Wow. Okay. But what do you do in those 2 or 3 minutes? How long does it take for you to actually look at someone in the eye and feel your breath in your body and say, hi? What would be important for you for us to talk about in the time that we have? Or how do you feel it's going? I love an open-ended question. But this disease of busyness, we often don't experience ourselves as whole. So that we use it as an excuse to actually be here. Anyone in this room ever say, I'm busy? Too busy. Raise your hand if you've ever said, I'm too busy. Some of you are honest. It's hard to just be here. It's very hard. Here's a poem that I like. And it's by a teacher named Ryun Shingon. And he wrote this after he witnessed and actually had a relationship with some peach blossoms. For 30 years, I've been searching for a sword master. many times leaves did fall. New ones sprouted. One glimpse of peach blossoms. Now, no more doubts. One glimpse. Many times I've talked about this, but the glimpse is all we need in some ways. A patient that I knew for many years, call her Lily. Wonderful, cantankerous, joyous, and very funny Jewish lady from Brooklyn. Then moved to Jersey when things got better, as it did back in the day. And she had her first fall. She was 86 years old, living at home, had a very healthy and active social life, and drove her car. And one day she fell, and her kids decided it was time to take away her car. They got scared. But no one talked with them about getting scared. And Lily felt humiliated. And so she began to fall a lot. And it was about 3 months later that she ended up at a nursing home, where her active mind felt like it was in a prison. Most of the people in the nursing home were slumped over in the hallway in a wheelchair. Maybe many of you have seen these hallways. Over-medicated, as Diane talked about. It was kind of like the classic nightmare of a nursing home. And Lily had all her wits about her. And she felt like she was really trapped, as she said, in Dante's Inferno. She's like, look at what's happened. Look at these people. She's like, there's not even anyone home. I've never had a roommate in my life. And now she shared her room, separated by a curtain. With a person who couldn't speak and couldn't move on their own. Lily hoped that it would end swiftly, but she ended up living for 7 years, and with it until the end, alert. And that was the greatest suffering of it all. She would be wheeled into these rooms for activities. You know, she was really the only one who was actually upright in these rooms where people would be singing, playing card games. But she said it's like 7 years of solitaire. And she's like, the amazing thing is that no one can come in and just say, like, this is what's real. That her family really struggled with just talking about what was actually happening. Because they felt that she didn't know. She doesn't really know how bad it is. Or she'll probably die soon. There was no directness. There was no feeling the fear and talking from the fear. So Lily died in this space, on hospice, also receiving palliative care, with few people who could talk to her honestly about what was happening. So to me, I'm quite encouraged that we're all here too. Taking, as some say, the backward step and saying that we have to do this a little differently. Dogen says, "The flowers bloom every year. Nevertheless, not everyone attains awakening by viewing them. Only through the virtue of long study and continuous practice, with the assistance of diligent effort in the way, does one realize this way." So those of you who are hoping it would be all solved this weekend, that's the bad news. This does not occur because the color of peach blossoms were particularly profound at all. Although the color of peach blossoms can be quite beautiful, quite wonderful. They open with the help of the spring breeze. It can only happen with relationship. That we only open and blossom in relationship. I've been kind of haunted by those mice that Diane talked about last night. Thinking about those sterile cages and how we do that to ourselves. We don't allow people really to know us, to know our struggles. And how heartbreaking that is. A group of us were here this past weekend, so we've kind of been living here. And we were talking about these feelings that most of us don't like to talk about in relationships. Anger, jealousy, envy. And we were really seeing, actually, what people were experiencing is the more we talked about just how ordinary it is to have these experiences, people felt much more connected and more resilient. People felt energized. Oh, you have that too? Sometimes you have patience even though you're a very caring person and a Buddhist. Sometimes you want to strangle somebody. Someone drives you crazy. Oh, you too. Suddenly we're in the company of a range of humanity. Here. So to me, part of the work is this realizing that there's this true person of no rank constantly flowing out of the portals of our face. Not about in our heads, about what we think about, but our experience. Oh, I'm sitting with you, I feel good. Wow. I had this idea that I would feel fearful or feel nervous, but actually sitting with you, I feel, wow, it's pretty good. Or, wow, I feel kind of loving Looking at you. Or I feel curious. But to me, if we kind of go in with this layer about who we are and what we're supposed to be doing, I'm the doctor, I'm the nurse, I'm this, I'm that. We don't actually have the experience of intimacy. To me, sometimes we can hide behind, I love this word, the chevron, right, or the stripes on our sleeve. But how do you allow yourself just to be with your breath more? How do we each do that? To me, it's like, as Choda talked about, fall down 7 times, get up 8 times. Constant practice. There was also what's beautiful this morning about what Radley was bringing us through, that actual stages of practice, so that we can actually, I love that it was like all these things to do, and at the end was like, then talk. Right? You have to do like all these different things before you can really speak, because you have to actually be aware of what's happening. Right? And maybe even enjoy that you have the opportunity to know what's happening. Imagine that. So, let's all practice together. We have just such a short time to be together. It's so rare. So many of us took so much effort to be here. And some people are still trying to get here. And that's how we are. We're all at different paces, different speeds, different flavors, bathed in this light in different ways. But how do we learn how to not hesitate, to be free, to glimpse at actually what's happening and be forever changed, so that we can have more intimacy, more freedom, and more joy. So, thank you all so much.